welcome to the Fortress Comic News, episode 93. I am one of your hosts, Chris, alongside my co-host,
Mike.
And Dragonfly Man and Dragonfly.
Yeah, so you're probably wondering, for all the people who are, to watch the YouTube video, Dragonfly Man is here, and Dragonfly is on this side. I'm just trying to, it's reversed, so I'm trying to mess that up. Yeah, so we have two fantastic guests on the show today. The returning Cullen Bunn, who you guys, if you've been listening, you should know by now. Or if you don't know, go read his comics. We're going to talk about his Kickstarter campaign, a little horror anthology he's putting together. And then he's opening up for our main act, Mr. Tom Peyer. He's been in the industry for a long time, started at DC, became an editor there, and now he's doing great things over at Ahoy Comics. So we're going to be talking about his projects with him today, too.
Jam-packed show today.
Jam-packed. So we won't sit here and bore you with our little rants and raves, but save that for another day when we don't have so many interviews.
Yeah, it's a good thing there's not a ton of news today.
Yeah. So I've been watching some TV. And before we get into the whole TV thing, I watched the first episode of Titans. I did it.
I haven't had a chance yet.
I watched, there's 3 episodes out now. Dude, I loved it. I loved it. I was sitting there like, this can't be this. What? It's so serious. It's like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's as serious as Arrow is. You know how Arrow tries so hard to be so serious?
Yeah.
But it's like as fun and like comic bookness as Flash, if I could describe it like that. But like the cinematography and music is Daredevil. Is how I just like it's just nobody knows about it though. Like nobody's talking about it. It's great. It's so good. So like I'm not going to get too much into it. I don't want to spoil it, but we see all the characters. We see Raven, Robin, Starfire, and who I'm watching Starfire. She's badass. I don't really care what she's dressed as, and we still have to learn more about her story. There's a reason she's dressed the way she is. And then Beast Boy makes an appearance like the last 30 seconds of the episode, and his appearance is basically like he breaks into Best Buy as a tiger and steals video games, and then when he changes back, he like figures out what video games he had, and he's like, oh sweet. Because like the security guard, nobody's gonna believe him when he said his tiger came in and stole video games. But there's a fantastic scene with Robin, and that's where the F Batman comes in, that we see in the first trailer. So basically there's all these thugs, and Dick Grayson is a police officer in Detroit, transferred from Gotham, and he basically takes case files and he finds like guys that are like hitting their children or like hitting kids, and he goes and he beats the crap out of them as Robin, which is pretty cool. So he lands in front of all these thugs in an alley. There's like, I don't know, 10 thugs. And when he lands, he says something like, you guys better leave. I'm just here for this one guy. And they all like ignore him, and they start looking in the sky. They're like, okay, where's Batman? Or like, they're all worried about Batman showing up. Like Robin's like right in front of them. They're like, where's Batman though? Like he's like, we don't like worry about Batman. Don't worry about this guy. And then he beats the crap out of him. But like they're not pulling any punches. Like he's grabbing people's faces and like dragging them through the concrete and stuff. And at the end, when he like beats the crap out of the 10 guys, then he's like F Batman, which makes it's like a little more. It's not like it makes sense.
Yeah,
because he's trying to be intimidating, and they're all just like, yeah, but where's Batman? Like we don't. It's really good. It was a lot of fun. The action, the fight scenes are so good. The fight scenes are really good. And the way they do Raven is like, she's possessed and doesn't know what's going on, so it's almost like a horror movie with her character. It's really cool. I really like this, so I want to know what you hear or what you think about it. So
that's interesting. That's quite a 360 from how you felt prior to seeing it. So
the trailer was so bad. It really was so, like, compared to the show, it didn't capture it did not capture the tone of the show at all, is all I can say. At all. Anyways, so Daredevil now. I'm done with the season.
Okay. I have not finished it. I am on episode 10, I believe.
All right, then we won't spoil everything. We'll wait for you to finish. All I'm going to say about Daredevil season 3, favorite season of Daredevil. Easily. Hands down.
Yeah, obviously I haven't finished it yet, but it's up there for me too. Obviously they do something different with Bullseye and his origin, but they really kind of take things from different versions of Bullseye's origin and mesh them together in a really cool way. You know, him being a baseball player, his parents not being around, and all this other stuff. And I really like that. And kind of where I'm at is we find out that Fisk is becoming the Kingpin that we know him as in the book. So he's sitting down with all the other crime bosses and basically telling them what's what. And it's just been so fantastic. I've heard complaints that it's enough of Kingpin already, but Kingpin's such a great...
No, he's so good in this in the season.
Yeah, he's such a great center for the villains of Daredevil. Like, I love Kingpin so much for that. So I've really enjoyed it so far. Like I said, I only got a few left, but it's been hands down. Daredevil, of all the Netflix shows, is just universally the best of them.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, the episode 12 and 13 is where stuff starts going down. I really like the fact that they're playing on, like, the difference between Daredevil solving problems and, like, the actual, like, using the law, like, being a lawyer to like, there's two ways to end things, and, like, there's this whole conflict throughout the season of, like, no, we can solve things, you know, the right way. It's like, no, we just have to kill everyone. It's really good. There's so many stressful moments. So many surprises. It's great. That's all I can say.
Anything else? Have you watched any of the CW stuff?
Oh yeah, Flash. I've only been watching Flash just because I've been watching so much Daredevil. Yeah, Flash episode 3 this week, titled "The Death of Vibe." So spoilers. Are you caught up?
What happens?
Have you watched it?
So no, I haven't watched any CW stuff because of Daredevil. I finished Making a Murderer season 2.
Oh yeah, that came out at the same time as Daredevil.
Yeah, and there was something else I was watching too. Oh yeah, and then been watching Walking Dead, which we can talk about after. But I have to get caught up on CW now that everything else is kind of...
Yeah, I've been missing The Walking Dead, so I guess I'll talk about Flash and talk about The Walking Dead. Yeah, so Flash has been amazing. We're back to, like, season 1 vibes of of that. I don't know. It's just it's so much fun. They actually, to catch this cicada villain, they've brought in another version of Wells. He's like a modern day Sherlock Holmes, and so basically they go through all the work of finding Cicada, who he is. And they find out that the guy that he's supposed to be isn't him. So Flash's daughter has done something to the timeline, to where, like, even Sherlock was like, but we've done this like 30 something times and it's always been this guy. So, like, he's gone to different Earths and helped them solve this case, and something about their Earth has changed because she's gone back in time. And the episode kind of ends that Sherlock understands that she came back. She came back at the last season, like when the satellite was being destroyed, and what he figures out is like, well, how did you know to come back at that certain point in time? Did somebody help you? And she kind of just, like, walks away all nervously. So somebody has helped her or told her to go back in time at this point. So there has to be something else that's coming that we don't know about. But apparently Cicada is supposed to be a really evil bad guy, that, like, serial killer of metahumans. And he's pretty cool so far. He makes a really annoying cicada beetle noise. It's getting pretty old, but other than that, he's been a pretty cool villain. And just It's Always Sunny in South Park. I haven't watched South Park this week. It's Always Sunny is just they do a Home Alone episode this week.
Oh,
and it's Charlie gets stuck in the bar because they're all going to the Super Bowl, and he's looking for his Green Man suit because he has like these color rituals that he does so the Eagles will win, and they think that he's on the bus, so they leave him home alone, and he go like it's complete like they go through all the scenes of Home Alone, and he gets caught in all the traps. So like all this crazy stuff happens. Like he eats a rat, he ends up eating a rat, and then like it's awesome. But it's like it's just like Home Alone. Like he sets up the paint can and stuff, and ends up falling on his head, and it's really good. Yeah, it's really good. But yeah, that's pretty much. Oh, did I talk about? Yeah, I talked about Halloween already, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much all I've been watching.
So yeah, Walking Dead this week was another really great episode, actually. So we get a lot of Rick and Michonne and Judith as a family, and kind of setting up. They're definitely setting up for Rick's death.
Yeah,
we all know that Andrew Lincoln's leaving the show, so there's a setup there. But that was really great. There's a conflict between the Saviors and the rest of the groups because someone is taking Saviors and killing them, and we don't know who it is. And actually, one of the lead Saviors in this episode, I don't know if you ever watched Entourage, but you remember the guy who directs Medellin in that show? I forget his name.
Oh, yeah. He's like the tall, skinny guy. Yeah.
Zach McGowan, I think is his name, but he plays like the lead Savior in this episode. And he's a real asshole. It's great. We end up finding out that the Oceanside people have been taking some of the Saviors that have wronged them and killing them in the same ways that they killed their family members and everything. Oh. And when we find that Daryl and I forget who was with him at this point. It was a week ago I watched it, but Daryl was kind of standing there watching and just kind of walked away and said, "Okay, you're in the right here." So it's interesting how they're setting up Daryl because Daryl's kind of lost in this new society that they're building. He was built for what they were doing before, which was war and scavenging, and now that kind of things are going good and everyone's working together, Daryl doesn't know what to do with himself, so he's kind of slowly losing himself. And then we get kind of a moment in there that everybody was talking about, which is Rick kind of telling Michonne, like, we should have a baby. And so that's going down. Really great episode altogether. The season, the first episode I know was a downer, but the last two episodes have been really great, so definitely suggest keeping up with Walking Dead.
Awesome.
So I guess now we will cut to the legendary Cullen Bunn.
Yeah, let's do that. And we'll see you on the other side.
Everybody, today we have another special guest from the Cullen Bunn Presents, A Passage in Black, none other than Cullen Bunn. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, welcome back. This is the third time now, right? I think.
Is it 3?
Man. He's getting up there for most reoccurring guest. I think we have what's that, 4? Is it 4 or 5?
Yeah, 1 away from breaking the record.
Who has the record? Who has the record? We'll see if
Travis Holyfield. Yeah, he's a indie writer. He writes a pretty cool book called Street Clothes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, welcome back. We know already that as Guardians of the Galaxy has been a lot of fun so far. I know I'm reading it, Chris is reading it, but now we're here to talk about this awesome Kickstarter, Tales of Terror, and what a fitting time to do it because it's going to be Halloween in a few days. So,
yeah. So this is my second Kickstarter that I've done. So it's a little bit of a different project for me, but I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, so it's like an anthology series. It seems like there's a few different stories involved.
Yeah, so it's a graphic novel. It has 10 stories, and what this is I really got my start doing short stories, prose stories, and those were, I collected a bunch of my short stories a little over a year ago, and I was talking to the publishers of that, and I said, wouldn't it be cool if we did a graphic novel adaptation of all these stories? So what I took I took a collection of 9 stories, and I collected a bunch of writers and artists that I thought would be good at adapting those stories, and they kind of put their own spin on them. So it's their versions of stories I've written. So it's 9 stories that are adaptations, and then I wrote a new short story for the collection as well.
Awesome. Yeah, it's I like the art on it too. Does each story have a different artist involved?
Yeah, so it's 10 different artists that are working on it. So
Very
you
cool.
get when you read this, my hope is you get a pretty wide range of writing styles and artistic styles. I tried to, I paired up all the writers and artists, and I kind of I selected each of the stories that I thought that creative team would do the best with. Um, but yeah, so you'll get at least 10 different art styles in the book, and I say at least because there's some other there's some additional things that'll appear in the book as well that other artists are bringing to the table.
Awesome. So all the art in the Kickstarter campaign looks to be black and white. Are you sticking with the black and white?
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to do with it is, as a kid, I used to love like Eerie magazine and Creepy magazine and the horror anthologies like that, and I wanted to kind of evoke that feeling with these stories. So yeah, each of the stories will be black and white. I mean, there's some gray tones and things like that in there as well. That gives each story its own, even though they're not in color, they have sort of a different aesthetic based on the way the artists presented it. But yeah, it's going to be a black and white book.
So with the way the industry's been recently, I mean, in the past, anthologies were a dime a dozen. We saw them all the time. It seems like nowadays not so much. So you said that anthologies had sort of a place in your past. Is this something you want to do more of moving forward, or is this kind of a one-off thing that you thought of?
Well, I'd love to do more of this. The thing what I think I might do, it all depends on the success of this project, obviously. But I'd love to make this sort of an annual project that I do. I think if I do another one, I'm probably going to focus more on original. I'd rather the writers and artists do their own original stories rather than adaptations of my stuff. So the next one will probably creative teams and working on short stories. But I think it'll be I'll ask most of them, if not all of them, to do their own thing with it.
Awesome. Yeah, so you're a pretty big fan of horror, and this is great to see. So do you think how do you feel when you're reading a horror book? Do you like the black and white versus the color? I think it makes it more eerie sometimes.
Well, I think it absolutely can make it more eerie. I think one of the things I found with horror comics is you have to be careful when it comes to the color, because if it's not done right, it can destroy the mood of the story. So you really have to be careful with it. I think with these, black and white was just the right way to go. Again, trying to evoke that feeling of the classic horror magazines. But who knows? The next one that I do may be in color. It just all depends on what I've decided I'm trying to do with it. But yeah, sometimes I can see that. I can see black and white making a book look a little more eerie. But I can definitely see the wrong colors on a horror story can really foul things up, I think.
Awesome.
So I can't remember if you were part of this project or not, but did Aftershock Shocked anthology that was a hardcover graphic novel have any influence on this as well?
Um, I've been wanting to do something like this for a while. I mean, long before the Aftershock book came out. But absolutely, I think that book is gorgeous. I think it's such a cool project and something that I hadn't seen, and so sent a copy of Shock to the publisher and said, "This is sort of the vibe I'd like to go for." Admittedly, Shock's in color, but I just like the design of it and the way it's put together. So it's an influence for sure. I don't think it didn't. It's not what motivated me to do this project, but I absolutely want it to be that level of quality.
Yeah, I love that style of the hardcover anthology book as opposed to. I mean, I love my floppies as well, but the hardcover anthology seems to speak to me a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something. It's something. It just has this Shock in particular, and hopefully this book too. It has this sort of feel of it's an artifact edition. It's a book that that I want to keep on the shelf and want to go back to again and again.
Exactly.
So, I know you're doing an original story in this passage, one of the passages, called Dead Vein. Can we talk about that a little bit, or?
Yeah, so Dead Vein is a story I'm doing with Marcos Mars. It's a new story. It has never appeared as a prose story before, and it's a story that could lead to something more. It's almost like I'm testing the waters with this idea in some ways to see if readers dig where Marcos and I are going with it. It's something that could stand on its own and be a much bigger story. It's almost like a prologue or an intro to a much bigger world, and it's sort of a grindhouse action horror story that's got a little bit of I'm trying to think of influences that show in it. It's got a little bit of Lovecraft to it, a little bit of Phantasm, and a little bit of They Live. So it's kind of got influences of a lot of my favorite my favorite horror stories kind of show up in Dead Vein, and hopefully turn it into something very different and interesting. Because I think Marcus and I would definitely love to do a big version of this story at some point.
Very cool.
Have you worked with Marcos before?
Just we have gone back and forth putting short stories together and working on pitches and talking about doing something together. We've got a big graphic novel that we're actually taking out right now that we're pitching. But yeah, we have not. I guess this will be our first publication together.
He has such a great eerie kind of art style. It would fit really well with what you do.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he's a lot of fun, and he just I sent him this story, and it's got these crazy images in it, and these sort of these characters that I knew had to really stand on their own visually, and he just nailed it and just delivered in such a great way.
Yeah, I'm looking through all these samples that you have on here. This is awesome. I mean, if you're a huge fan of horror, there's such a variety in here of just art styles and writing styles. This is so cool.
Yeah, and it's neat because all the stories are based on my work, but I stressed to the writers right up front. I was like, make this your own. Don't feel like you have to be, you don't have to stick too close, go crazy, and turn this into your own story. Do that, and they really did. I think what's nice about it is that their style shows through, even though these are adaptations of my work. Their writing style shows through for sure.
And this is awesome too. I'm looking through the tier rewards. This is actually, it's pretty affordable. I'm thinking about investing in one for the sketches. I mean, you get like an original piece of art for 150 plus the trade and everything. That's actually pretty cool that they did that.
I mean, we didn't want to rip anybody off. I mean, the full graphic novel at 120 pages. I mean, the digital one you can get really, you can get a digital copy pretty inexpensively, but to get the trade paperback, it's $25 for the 125, for $25 for 120 pages.
Yeah.
And it's a trade paperback, but if we reach certain stretch goals, we're upgrading all of the printed editions to hardcovers.
Ooh, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of the artists donated their time to do sketches, original sketches. A lot of them are giving pages of art from the book. So there are some at some of the higher levels. There are some one of a kind items that you can get as part of this project.
Awesome. And when do you have a date on if it gets backed, when it would be released? Or
so I think we because we want to, this, like I said, this is my second Kickstarter, and I've learned a little bit about Kickstarter during the first one, and we wanted to be careful in what we said in terms of delivery. We put March of next year. Honestly, I think it'll be before that. All the art's done. I mean, all that really has to take place once the book funds. All that we have to do is do the designs and get it lettered. Some of the stories are already lettered, but we have to do lettering and designs, and then take it to the printer. And there's but all of those things have variables that could take longer than we expect. But I don't see them really derailing this project. In fact, the publisher kept telling me, well, let's just do it by the end of the year, because he's very convinced that they can just get it finished by then. Yeah. And I think we could, but I also don't want to rush it. So that's why we put, give us a few months to make sure. I'd rather say March of next year and deliver before that than to say, December of this year and miss that deadline. If it just like I said, I've learned in my first Kickstarter, things just end up taking longer than you expect them to. So I'd rather err on the side of caution with it. But the good news of this isn't a project that you're backing and then we get started on it. I mean, it's done for the most. I mean, except for lettering and design, everything's done. So, you can be pretty confident that the book is going to make it. I mean, the book will be coming out fairly quickly, assuming we fund, because, like I said, you're not waiting for. You're not going to be waiting a year for 120 pages to be drawn at that point. It's been in progress for a while now.
Awesome.
Yeah. Cool. So, quick Metro question: how's the thank you page coming?
Oh my gosh! Well, there's where we talk about things that take longer than we expect. No, but the design on it, the book's all designed, all put together, but then we have like 20 something pages of thank yous, and that was something we didn't. I don't think that we just didn't expect, and you wouldn't think that putting a thank you page is difficult. But to get it right and make it look right, and then all these, it's interesting because we submit a survey, and then we download all the information from that survey into the file that becomes the thank you page. So as I'm proofreading this thing, I start noticing there are all these weird icons in it. There are people that have written, do not list my name. Well, that gets listed if we're not careful, because it comes in just as another name. So the thank you page, surprisingly, has taken a lot of time, and there have been a lot of eyes on the page now, and a lot of scans going back and forth to our designer, and a lot of cross-referencing to make sure what like I said, some of them had strange icons in them and strange symbols. So we had to do a lot of cross-referencing to make sure what the person meant when they were typing it in. And figure out what those symbols ended up being. So right here on my desk in front of me is this big stack of papers that I've been going through, and we just sent the another pass of like proofing all the names to our designer. Our poor beleaguered designer who I'm pretty sure hates us now because of these thank you pages. But I think we're pretty close, and that's one that I thought deliver it next week. We just let's just put this thing together. Everything's ready to go. Just let's put it together, turn it into a PDF, and we can at least deliver the PDF. But no, it's just taken. I just want to get it right rather than send a partial thing. But yeah, it's I talked to the designer yesterday, and he sounded a little frazzled over it, and I think he's tired of thank you pages at this point. But it was just one of those things. We had over, I think, 3,000 people that we had to list in this, on these pages. So we just want to make sure we get them as right, as possible. So a lot of eyes, a lot of proofing, more proofing than I ever thought a thank you page would require.
Yeah.
But it has
apparently people want to use hieroglyphics.
Well, I don't even know. In some cases, it's just weird how things. In some cases, they're putting in little symbols or wingdings and things like that, which don't translate. But in some cases, it's not even. I don't even know why it's translating it weird. That's what we had to go through and really do some referencing of what they intended. But it's all good now. I think we're getting them, pretty. We're pretty close to being finished on these thank you pages, I hope. So, but yeah, and that's, like I said, those are things that I just I learned from doing this first Kickstarter. It's just it's the little things, these little details that take so much longer than you expect them to.
Yeah, that's interesting. Awesome.
So, Cullen, what's the best place to send everybody to keep up with what you have going on?
Well, you can always follow me on Twitter. Is a great place. Follow me on Twitter. You can subscribe to my e-newsletter, which I put out roughly weekly. That kind of share a lot of insights into my process and what I'm doing. But you can also, and for this Kickstarter in particular, if you just go to the Kickstarter website and type in A Passage in Black, it'll pop right up.
Yep, and we'll also have a link down below for all of you to check out, so make sure you go there and check it out. Our success rate is still at 100%, so let's keep it going. And Cullen, thanks for being on again. We always appreciate you taking some time out.
I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.
And we're back.
Wow.
Cullen Bunn doing some Kickstarter action.
Yeah, go check it out right now. Invest while you still can. All right, moving right along. Movie news. This week we got a Reign of Superman trailer, which was pretty dope, and I wish they could make a real Superman movie like that.
Yeah, right.
But we don't even have a real Superman anymore. Anyways, it looks pretty interesting. Like, Superman's gone, and it brings all these other Supermen in. Like, we see Cyborg Superman, we see Steel. I can't remember the one with the glasses that blasts people with like energy blast. Eradicator. Yeah, I'm gonna watch it. I mean, the animated movies look pretty cool.
And it's the perfect. I mean, we all know the Death of Superman story, and that came out last year, I believe, in animated. And this is the direct sequel to it in the comics. So yeah, It's really cool.
Yeah. Some news for Wonder Woman 2, or Wonder Woman 1984. Is delayed till 2020. I don't really know what that means. I don't know. Maybe it's just like, did they give a reason for it?
The reason they gave was that they can give it the same time slot in 2020 as opposed to 2019. I personally think that's bullshit.
Yeah. I think they're going to be making some changes.
Yeah, you don't delay a movie for a year because of the time slot. I think this has 100% to do with they're going to do reshoots, and there's going to be big changes to the DC Extended Universe coming up.
I think it's not. I don't think it's because of the Wonder Woman stuff. I think it's because of the overall universe they're trying to create. So maybe they'll be doing some shots with our new Batman and our new Superman, whoever they pick. If they want it, like maybe they had references to those guys and they don't want them in there at all.
That's what I'm thinking. Is there some sort of backstory that has to do with the extended universe? And now that that's all changing, they need to go back and change the story a little bit. I don't think it's going to have anything to do with the story as a whole. They obviously know what they got with Wonder Woman and have done a great job so far.
Catherine Langford is cast in an unspecified role in Avengers 4. Maybe Kate Bishop.
Yes. Do you know who this Catherine Langford is?
No.
So there's a show, and I know about it because the Missus is a big fan of it. It was called 13 Reasons Why on Netflix. And actually a pretty good show, to be honest. It's all about a girl in high school who commits suicide, and she leaves these notes for each person that was involved with her suicide. And Catherine Langford played the girl that committed suicide in the show. So she's in the show.
Yeah, I know. I've seen her. I've seen parts of the show.
Yeah, so there's many rumors going around. The one that's most specified, and it jumps right into our second piece of news, is that she's going to be Kate Bishop. And that's because there's a rumor that there's a Hawkeye movie coming out that's going to adapt Matt Fraction's run, which has Kate Bishop in it. So other theories have been that she plays different daughters in the MCU. We've seen Ant-Man's daughter. We've heard about Iron Man's daughter and so on and so forth. Because there's talk that there's going to be a huge time jump in this book or this movie. I don't think that's it, and I don't know. Kate Bishop makes the most sense, but this late in filming, could it be that she's playing a unknown mutant?
Oh, snap. Like the first one? Who would be the first one?
I don't know who they would. I'm zoning on her name right now because I'm not a big X-Men fan, but
which one? What's the powers?
She can phase through things.
Kitty Pryde.
Kitty Pryde. That was my first thought.
She does look like a Kitty Pryde.
She has the look, and she's young enough where you can build a franchise around her.
Build a franchise. Build it. Invest.
Yes. And I thought it would be... So there's tons of talk about how they're going to do mutants in the MCU. And people who have not read the Ultimate Universe, which a lot of MCU is based off of, mutants are actually an experiment from the government that turned them into these different creatures or give them these powers.
Yep.
And I almost wonder if they're going to kind of adapt that. And Kitty Pryde is going to be the first of those experiments. I don't know. That's just out of my head, but it seems like everybody's pushing towards this Kate Bishop thing. So,
yeah, I mean, we've already seen them handle mutants with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, like Nazi experiments.
And that's where my theory comes from, too, is everybody says, well, now you have to go back and make them mutants. And I say you don't really have to. You can just kind of retcon that mutants are people that have been experimented on, and Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch were experimented on. Haha, they're mutants. Like, that's really all you got to do. So, but we'll see. It's interesting that someone's cast this late, especially since we were promised a trailer before the end of the year.
Yeah, it's got to be. She must be in like the after credit scene or something.
Yeah, or just a really small role at the end of the movie.
Which is like, nobody's going to give a shit. Honestly, me personally, me going into this, I won't like, if they're like, all right, Mrs. Bishop, right this way. Nobody's going to be like, God, in the theater, right? Oh, like Kate Bishop. But if it was like Kitty Pryde and you show this girl like in high school being bullied and she like phases through the bathroom wall to leave for the day or something, now that's how you do an after credit scene and introduce mutants. Boom.
Yeah. The only way you can do Kate Bishop right is if the after credit sequence was Hawkeye going home or, wherever, and this woman is playing his daughter, just shooting an arrow in the backyard. And that was great, Katie, or, whatever. So that's the only way, but even then...
Nice job, Tiger!
That's not as exciting as...
Yeah, as like phasing through a wall. Yeah. And then like blank screen, like mutants will be coming 2022. Like, come on, can you imagine? Like, I got goosebumps just thinking about it, man. Anyways, okay, this is done. We've already gotten way too far with this. Yeah.
Contact Disney.
Yeah, contact Disney. So that is a rumor that Hawkeye movie is coming, and man, I mean, Jeremy Renner has put in the work for it. So give the guy a movie. My question is, why is he getting a movie before Black Widow? Is Black Widow ever getting a movie?
Well, Black Widow's getting a movie. It's in production.
Oh, it's already okay. It's actually a thing.
Yeah, because there was this. It didn't make the notes whenever it came out because I don't really like to talk about money, but Scarlett Johansson just got paid a buttload of money to do a single movie for Marvel, so it's
as she should. Like
happening.
Marvel's got so much money.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay, that's cool. Let's cut to the other interview that we got today, Chris, with Tom Peyer. I didn't mess the name up. I swear.
Welcome back, everybody. Today we have another special guest for you. One of the creators and head guys at Ahoy Comics, Tom Peyer. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Hi, thanks. Nice to be here.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm really excited about this week because Chris and I have this huge collection of comics that we have to read for the show from like writers and artists and stuff. And every week I would text Chris and be like, is this the Wrong Earth week? Like, is this the week we get to read Wrong Earth? And he's like, no, not this week. And so finally that week came, and I'm so glad we get to talk about it. Thanks for being on the show, dude. And first off, we like to talk about origin and how you got involved in comics, why you started writing comics. Can we hear that?
Yeah, I'll try to make it quick. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I just, literally, I just never wanted to do anything else. So when I was young, I would take these sort of menial jobs that paid very little so that I could do my own comics on the side and stuff. And eventually, I made some relationships with people in comics who liked some of what I did and helped work me in. Roger Stern, Mike Carlin, Karen Berger hired me on staff at DC, which really changed my life.
Yeah.
She's the founding editor of Vertigo. And, and I was there with Stuart Moore, who you also talked to. He's also part of Ahoy. We both worked for Karen in those days when Vertigo was getting started.
Awesome. So what was it like for you? You made it. You were at DC. Was that like, oh wow, I'm finally like part of something huge? Like that's crazy.
I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. It was it was really good.
That's so awesome.
And it was, I loved comic books my whole life. It was like growing up a sports fan and becoming an athlete, I guess. It just felt until the work started piling up.
Awesome. Yeah, so for you, when you said, this is before she started Vertigo, so like at the time where DC and Marvel, that was kind of it, right? There wasn't a huge scene for like indie comics, right?
I think there was already. There were some companies in the 80s that really made a difference that I was just musing about how you don't really hear about, say, Pacific Comics anymore. Or, but there have been some indie hits. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had already been a hit, right. And Marvel Man had already been a hit, and a few others, Howard Chaykin's things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's jump ahead to the Ahoy stuff. Let's start with Wrong Earth. So my first question about Wrong Earth: are you a Batman 66 fan?
I don't know what you're referring to.
Adam West Batman?
Rings a bell. Wrong Earth is a satire of superheroes, and it draws from everything, including Batman 66 and Batman the Dark Knight and Mighty Comics, which was Archie Comics' campy superhero line in the 60s by Jerry Siegel, written by Jerry Siegel himself, who created the whole genre. And then they were terrible. And just if you go back and read a comic book from before, like a pre-Wolverine comic, before the late 70s, all the heroes are like really upstanding and They are very, very helpful to authority. They really believe in authority.
Friends with the police. Yep.
Thor, the Norse god of thunder, came down to Earth, and he starts just enforcing our property laws. Look, there's a bank robber. It got that absurd. It was always that absurd.
Yeah.
And Batman 66 is the most famous example of that, and it's one of the most fun and worthwhile examples of that. But it was everywhere. They didn't make that stuff up.
Yeah.
Yeah. You go ahead.
I'm sorry. Mike and I are not only huge Batman 66 fans, we're also huge Batman The Dark Knight fans. And that's kind of the vibe I got from Wrong Earth, was that you were kind of mashing those two worlds together.
Well, it's those two schools of thought, that it's not just Dark Knight, but the entire world that Dark Knight created.
Yeah.
Where superheroes had to be. It actually goes back to Wolverine, I think. They go from loving authority to like sticking it to the man.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was awesome too. Like you said, you brought the whole worlds together. So we're not only seeing that like Dragonfly's reaction when he gets swapped, but we see like the police force reacting, and just the world around them. Like it's like when in the second issue which one's Prime, or is it Alpha and Omega? Is that how it goes?
Yeah, Alpha and Omega. Alpha is the funny one.
Okay. And Omega, so Dragonfly from Alpha is an Omega, and he's like, he finds the bottle of liquor and he pours it out. He's like, nobody should be drinking on the job. And then he turns around and looks at the notes that he has on like the city, and it's like everybody's criminally insane, everybody's corrupt. This many people have left the prison and stuff. And I'm like, and he's like, okay, maybe he has a point. maybe this is why he's drinking on the job, because this city sucks. Like.
Dragonfly Man is more upstanding, moralistic, judgmental, but he understands pretty quickly that he has not had nearly as hard a job as Dragonfly has had. His villains are pretty gentle in comparison.
Yeah.
And the stakes are pretty low.
Yeah, so do you have a plan to take this further than is this going to go for 5 issues or go further than that? Because you could do some really cool stuff with this.
Thanks. Yeah, we're doing season 1, which is 6 issues.
Okay.
And Jamal has to go and draw another series of Black. Jamal Eigel, our wonderful penciler.
It was amazing art too for it.
Co-creator. And then when he's done with that, we'll get started on season 2 of Wrong Earth.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
It'll be a little different from season 1, but I can't tell you anything because
oh man. Yeah, I just and some of the absurdity you play on the like how absurd it was back in the classic stuff of like, oh, he got shot with bullets, but he's like, oh yeah, I assumed I was going to get shot with bullets, so I took this pill. Yeah, it's just like you could play like the comic book science back then was so ridiculous.
Comic book science is the only science I really understand that way. Like I know if you want to do something, you need a ray to do it, but I don't know too much beyond that.
Like we got to get through this giant door. Well, we'll get the giant door shrinking ray, obviously.
Exactly right. Exactly right. You need a ray, a pill, or a spray to do anything.
And just like I really enjoyed the small details in the book, and especially where they're tied up in the very beginning. And what does it say? Like it's not part of the dialogue, but like the intercom, and it's like it's really heating up in there, but it says like heat resistant intercom. Like you make sure you point out like there's no plot holes here. Like it's a heat resistant intercom. Yeah,
you need to put exposition in wherever you can fit it, wherever.
It's so great. Yeah. Really. I mean, it's so much fun. I could not wait. I love multiverse stuff. So is that fun for you to talk about like multiple Earths at once, or?
It is, but I get mixed up. Like I'll be sitting there thinking, for 5 minutes, I'm thinking about how to get Dragonfly out of this situation. Then I'll remember that it's Dragonfly Man who's in this situation. And I'm on the wrong Earth. And that happened like 100 times.
So for writing, what's easier for you to like for Dragonfly Man or Dragonfly to get out of a problem? Because I mean, the Dragonfly problem is he just punches people. The Dragonfly Man has an unlimited utility belt probably to use it as well, right?
but you can't lean on it without thinking of something.
Yeah.
Without thinking of a good joke, like I hope the anti-bullet pill is,
Yeah.
But
awesome.
I never use writing and easy in the same sentence.
Oh yeah.
Relatively,
yeah. But
yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah. So let's switch to your next book now, which is like almost completely different. I mean, completely different genre. High Heaven, and there's only been one issue out so far, right?
Yeah, the next one. No, there are two.
Oh, there's two.
Two
Number
issues,
2 shipped last week.
Okay, so do you want to just give us the rundown of what High Heaven is?
Yeah, High Heaven is the story of a guy named David who, youngish guy who dies accidentally, and he goes to heaven, and everything there is terrible, and everybody hates him. And he can't leave. It's like the afterlife. Where do you go?
Yeah.
So it's drawn by Greg Scott, who's wonderful.
Yeah, amazing art.
Colored by Troy. Covers by Richard Williams, who painted man covers for many years. Really good stuff. And it was co-created. I co-created with Mary Seo, my partner. Who, it came out of like a year's worth of conversations, and then it got shaped into this story. But
awesome.
We spent a long time imagining what this disappointing heaven would be like.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting.
You can eat, and you can have all the food you want, but it's from vending machines, and it's just the crafts in vending machines, and stuff like that.
So I love first of all, I love the Bugs Bunny-esque way he dies in the book, and
yeah,
and then when he gets there, just like everything, like kind of the extreme disappointment of what heaven is.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said with the vending machines, but then there's that moment where he's watching the choir sing and he starts to get a little horny and realizes that he doesn't have genitals.
He's a Ken doll. Yeah. That was the final rake he stepped on in that issue.
But
go ahead.
I get the idea that you have heaven, and then later we end up finding out that there's a high heaven where it's more the paradise that we think of, and we also kind of get a glimpse of what hell is. So first of all, I have my own theories of what's going on here, but do you have a background in like any kind of religious theory, or are you a religious person yourself?
No, I'm not religious, but I was raised religious.
Okay.
And I went to a religious school, but I'm not religious at all. However,
I love the background of just the Christian mythology when people add that into stuff, and I'm not a religious person either, but it's just very interesting.
I tried to make it like the secular heaven. I got some really good advice from our publisher, Hart Seeley. There were some Christian references in the first draft, and he convinced me very easily because to make it sort of the secular heaven that you see in cartoons and movies that I mean, St. Peter is accepted and Angels with Wings are accepted, but it doesn't go much deeper than that. It's just the pop culture heaven. And because it gets confusing. I mean, it becomes a different story if you're satirizing a particular religion. Does it mean you're supporting other ones? And then you know what I mean? It just it complicates everything. So, but there's a reason that heaven is like it is, and high heaven is like it is, and hell is like it is, and you'll be seeing it.
Oh man!
And is this another one that is going to be set in seasons, or do you have a finite story here that you're really telling?
It's going to be at least a couple seasons, maybe 3.
Awesome. Yeah, I thought it was really cool that like you're supposed to be happy for him that he gets to heaven, but it's like it's all just very bleak, right?
It's really bleak, and the coloring really sells it.
Yeah, the coloring makes it, man. It's like there's nothing vibrant going on. It's all gray and white.
Right, man. Yeah. And the art sells it. He's just so perfect for this because it's just so real, and kind of grungy.
Yeah.
I want to put in a good word for Chris Geruso, too. He drew our backup series, #Danger.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty funny.
It's about a trio of scientific adventurers who aren't very nice to each other. And the formula is it's like 2 pages of pulp action followed by 3 pages of them being dicks to each other.
Yeah. It's great, yeah.
And also in these books, we've got all this back matter. We have short stories and nonfiction stories and articles and stuff filling out the back of the book. So you have stuff to read when you're done reading the comics.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I saw there was an excerpt from Grant Morrison in there too.
Mm-hmm.
Is this just something he wanted to add to the book, or did you guys like reach out to him? And
I asked him, and I didn't really, it was kind of a Hail Mary shot, but he was ready to do it. He thought about doing things just like this. He was really ready. So he sat down and he wrote 3 brilliant things for us that we put in 3 of our first issues, and I'm hoping to get more out of him because he's so good.
Yeah.
He's better than good. But we have a lot of other good people too, and people that names that wouldn't be familiar to you because they haven't done comics, so you might not know. You might not know their work outside of comics. Some journalists and some novelists and short story writers and poets, and we're gonna we just want to make it like a mixed bag. Like I kind of hate it when you pick up a comic and there's text in the back and it's supplementary reading for the front story.
Yeah.
It's like you have to do homework to enjoy the comic. This is why I hate it so much. But, which is actually something that gets truer every year. I was learning to kind of hate Watchmen. But the backstory, the back matter stories will be mostly unrelated to the front stories and very different from each other. We just think you probably have a range of interest that's greater than the front story you're reading.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's really interesting. It's something I've never seen in a book as of recently. I mean, sometimes you get like letters to the writers and stuff, but it's cool. I was like, oh wow, there's actually like more stories back here. It's pretty cool.
Well, we were looking at old comics to see if we could find anything interesting that used to be done that wasn't being done anymore. And boom, it was right there. These short stories. Before letter pages, they would run stories because they had to have text in there to have cheaper postal rates.
Oh wow.
And which is why we had letter columns at all. But before letter columns, they would pay somebody as little money as possible to write a story as fast as possible.
Oh wow!
And we just looked at them and we were like, "What if these were good?
What if these were good stories?" That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, moving on to the Edgar Allan Poe book, give us the short synopsis of that.
Oh, okay. That's shipping Wednesday. That's shipping on Halloween. If you hear this before, around Halloween, the book should be. And it's called Edgar Allan Poe's Snifter of Terror, and it's adaptations of Poe stories that are irreverent and funny.
Oh wow!
And have already succeeded in making some Poe fans angry that I've talked to personally.
Of course. That's always going to happen, though, right? I mean, it's...
The first issue has another Richard Williams cover. We have some great covers planned.
Yeah, that cover is amazing. It's like Edgar Allan Poe, Frankenstein, Dracula, horned and mummified. It's awesome.
Yeah, thanks. And we've got a story by Mark Russell, who did the great Flintstones comic that was grown up serious, and Peter Snaberg did beautiful art for that. And there's one by me and Fred Harper. It's an adaptation of Valdemar, The Facts in the Case of M. Valdemar, the grossest Poe story. It's just, this thing reads like it was written by a 10-year-old. I love this story. It's that guy who is going to die, but he's got this hypnotist who can hypnotize him into staying alive, but he keeps kind of decomposing.
Yeah.
And it's just gross and wonderful. And
that is amazing.
In every issue, we have a 2-page story by a great British cartoonist named Hunt Emerson, who's done a lot of wonderful things. And he's doing The Black Cat, as if it were kind of like Spy versus Spy and Mad. It's just going to be Poe and the Black Cat trying to kill each other over 2 funny silent pages every month.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
That's so good.
and,
Awesome.
And we have a poem in the first issue, and I hope you like it.
So these books must be keeping you real busy.
Yeah, it's Sunday and I'm in the office.
Oh man.
Poor me.
So what's the future for Ahoy have? I mean, have you guys announced anything past these 3 books or 4 books that you have out currently?
We will be when the time comes. We know what's next after these seasons end. Cool. But I ain't telling you. I think you'll probably find out before the end of the year.
Awesome.
Well, so is that kind of the plan, to do things in seasons as opposed to doing ongoings, or?
That's the plan. I suppose if something became like so desperately popular that people couldn't live without it, and there was like a rash of people harming themselves because the thing wasn't coming out, then we might just put something out as an ongoing.
And was that a part of the plan to begin with? Because the idea of a season has always been something that's floated around, at least in my circles with comics, where they've talked about kind of. I've heard people talk about, even Marvel and DC, instead of going to ongoing, it's just saying, here's writer X and artist A, and they get together and they do a year of books, and that's season 1, and then we move on and on. Was that something that you guys had planned from the beginning?
Yeah, it was something we planned from the beginning, and also we didn't want to have to rush our good artists or use fill-in artists to get something out 12 times a year. Mm-hmm. We wanted them to do their best work at a pace they can live with. There's no reason anybody should have to pull all-nighters all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, crunch is something that's talked about a lot in gaming, but artists have a huge time with that as well.
Oh my God, it's terrible. It's terrible. But I found years ago working as an editor at DC that someone who could draw 12 full comic books a year those people were getting rarer and rarer. Mm-hmm. And there's no reason they should have to, if that's...
Especially as the art got more intricate as the years went on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you go back and look at really old stuff, you see artists sort of drawing the same pictures again and again. The same characters in the same poses, different stories. Like they had this repertoire of riffs they could play quickly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So. Awesome. Okay, well, where can everybody find these books? They're on Comixology, right?
They're on Comixology, and they're at your local comic book store.
Very cool.
And you can pick up previews and order future issues. But yeah, we are out on Comixology same day.
Awesome.
And,
and to anyone out there listening, I can honestly say that Wrong Earth is a ton of fun. Yep. High Heaven was probably my favorite of the 3, mostly because of what it's about, and then even Captain Ginger. Captain Ginger is such a fun book,
isn't it though?
Yeah. So, and I haven't got a chance to read Edgar Allan Poe, but I'm sure that's just as good as the other 3. So definitely check out Ahoy Comics. I got some cool stuff coming out. But where's the best place for people to follow you and Ahoy online? Do you guys use Twitter or?
You can follow me at Tom Peyer, TOMPEYER, and at Ahoy Comic Mags, because they're comic magazines, because they have all these stories and articles in them. Mm-hmm. But they'll still fit in your long box. They're small. They're regular.
They'll still fit in your collection.
But yeah, at Ahoy Comic Mags is our main social media account.
Awesome.
Well, Tom, thanks so much for being on. We really appreciate you taking some time out of your day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
I enjoyed it.
And we're back.
Take care.
Woohoo! Oh, man. 2 interviews, 1 show. Who would have thought?
It's almost like you're not here, Mike.
Wow. Wow. All right. That was great.
Because that's what I do when you're not here.
Yeah, you do 2 interviews.
Yeah.
I get it, but I'm here this time, okay? All right, we're going to comic book news. the foundation of this podcast. Mark Waid is starting a GoFundMe for legal defense of Atlantic Comics against, I guess, ownership or like property rights over Richard C. Meyer over Jawbreaker.
No, so the story goes, anyone that knows Richard C. Meyer, he's kind of one of the head guys for Comicsgate. He runs Diversity in Comics, all that kind of shit. And he's also a writer in his own way, too. And he had this book called Jawbreaker. He got a deal through Atlantic Press. They signed a contract, the whole deal. Everybody got, similar to what happened with Alterna, everyone online jumped on Atlantic Press for publishing this book. And as the story goes, Mark Waid calls them. Nobody knows what was in that call, but after the call, Atlantic Press decides that they are no longer going to publish Jawbreakers. So the story is that they had no idea who this guy was. They just thought the comic was good and they were going to publish it. And obviously Mark Waid, being a very anti-comic gator and being online very vocal about it, does not like Richard C. Meyer. So Richard C. Meyer has decided that he's going to sue Atlantic Press for some sort of contract breach because they'd already signed deals prior to them breaking ties. And now Mark Waid is doing a GoFundMe to help pay for their legal defense.
Yeah.
It's a lot of legal mumbo jumbo, but it's a big deal because it's big names going at each other over this issue that we've unfortunately had to talk about way too much recently. And the fact that Mark Waid, of all people, is really kind of made himself the poster boy for the anti-comic gator. And also you've seen people like Neil Gaiman and Jim Zub donate money towards this. It's all over the industry right now, so was worth bringing up.
Yeah, but now they need money to defend themselves. That's the tough part.
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm okay with whatever comic comes out and let the people decide whether they want to buy it or not. I feel like I don't know what this book was, what it's about, or anything like that, but if it's something truly awful, people aren't going to buy it. Like, it's been proven time and time again that if you put out stuff that is like, if this, let's just say, for an example, this book was extremely racist or whatever, the book's going to flop. Like, it's just the market we live with. So I don't understand putting yourself out there for this, but that's Mark Waid for you. That's the kind of guy he is, and take it or leave it. That's just what it is.
All right. Comics we read this week.
Yeah.
Action Comics 1004. Probably my favorite issue so far from Bendis on Action Comics. Lois has been in hiding and Superman finds her and they're in love and it's great and it's an awesome issue. And it focuses mostly on Superman and Lois, which is great.
That cover is phenomenal too.
Oh yeah, it's so good. Yeah, the white and blue colors.
Yeah, do you have it physically or digitally?
I have it physically.
So yeah, they're doing the
metal covers, right?
Yeah, the metal covers, and it's an all blue cover with like Superman on it. It's just perfect.
Yeah, it was a really good issue. I really liked it, and I'm going to still read this. A lot of people, I guess, are kind of upset over Action Comics, but I'm not. Amazing Spider-Man. I only had a couple this week. I'm behind on Bloodborne. I was supposed to be still reading that. It's hard to find. I have to buy it digitally. Amazing Spider-Man number 8. Pretty interesting stuff. The Avengers call Spidey and need his help. Well, Tony Stark calls him. And everybody's stuff is being stolen. Thor loses his hammer. Tony Stark loses all his armor. Cap loses his shield. My
2 favorites are Ghost Rider loses his car.
Oh yeah, he's like, where did I park?
Yeah, and Punisher comes home and there's just no weapons.
Yeah, there's no guns at all. They're all gone. So this society they're talking about, are they part of the Marvel Universe? What are they?
The Thieves Guild.
Thieves Guild? Okay.
They've been a part of in the past. So Spidey has, over the years, borrowed a lot from Batman. So the Thieves Guild, they're basically...
League of Assassins.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I figured. It's pretty cool. I like the issue. Looks like we're getting away from the whole Boomerang thing.
Yeah, I feel like the Boomerang story is Spencer wants to do with Otley, so he's kind of going away from it. And we also, speaking of borrowing from Batman, Black Cat shows up at the end of this issue as well.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, someone's going to save me," and then she scratches his face. Which that's no bueno. Yes, that was it for me. I picked up a great old school Justice League issue that I was reading last night. And I don't know what number it is, but I picked it up because it has Uncle Sam on the front and the Freedom Fighters.
Oh, nice.
So it's like, and not just the Freedom Fighters, it incorporates Earth 2 as well. So like Earth 1 and Earth 2 are like, they made this portal device to swap freely between Earths. Like, and this is like the point of the comics where there's not a whole lot of like notes and exposition. So it's a pretty easy read. And there's just so many, like every page is just like, oh man, Our Man and Red Tornado. And then you have like, Barry Allen and, Jay Garrick just like talking with each other. Oh, it's so good. And then the Red Tornado messes up the portal device because they keep saying like, hey, it's so much comic book science because they're like, they tell Red Tornado, you're not a human, so you can't use the machine. And it's like, oh man. So then like they get in and Green Arrow's like, I feel a breeze. And they're like, you're an idiot. And so like they use the portal device, and I guess like Red Tornado tried to sneak in and use the device and he like messed everything up. But the way he snuck in and used the device is he spun so fast that nobody could see him. And that's why Green Arrow felt a breeze. And so by this spinning motion, he creates like some vortex that sends them all to Earth 3, where Earth 3 has the Freedom Fighters and they're fighting Nazis. And it's awesome.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, they'd found an Earth where the Nazis built a bomb at the same time we did, and nobody ever ended up using the bomb because we were like both like, well, we don't want to blow up the world. So then the Nazis ended up winning the war.
Yeah, I always loved the Freedom Fighters and like that that story. My problem is whenever they do the Freedom Fighters, it's always like Uncle Sam and the Freedom Fighters come to Earth Prime.
Yeah,
like, I don't want that. I want them to fight Nazis.
I want them to fight Nazis. Yes.
So now that the new one's coming out here in a few months, and they're actually like, it's going to be on Earth X, guys. Like they're going to fight Nazis. It's going to be great. I'm like, good. I better see a Nazi Batman at some point. That's all I need. There's
a lot of terrible continuity with those old school books because like, I think originally Earth 3 was supposed to be, well, I think later in the years, Earth 3 was the crime syndicate. But like in that book, Earth 3 is the Freedom Fighter Earth. So it's like the multiverse was in shambles back in the day until like Multiversity came out and they like created an order to everything, you know?
Yeah, I feel like that was a part of Multiversity was that Grant Morrison really wanted to make a map of the multiverse and what it was all about. So.
Like, this is the ground rules. Like, this is it. This is the foundation. And when you're referring to a specific Earth, that's your Earth. And I believe in that one, he made Earth 3 the Crime Syndicate Earth. So, man, listen to us talking about comics and things. And I also started Kill or Be Killed Volume 1, which I've heard that's by Ed Brubaker. I was given to that as a gift, and I heard it's a really good book, so I'm starting to read that.
Awesome.
Yep.
So I'm going to run through mine. I got Terrifics number 9. The basic premise here. Well, first, another awesome metal cover.
These metal covers, they're not even lenticular. It's like metal foil.
Yeah, it's great.
So good.
They're using single colors so well. So this one's purple. and it jumps out at you.
Nice.
But so the Terrifics, they're fighting a Doctor Doom lookalike who's not Doctor Doom, because this definitely isn't the Fantastic Four. But all the different Terrific characters, they're in their own little kind of multiverse, trying to find a different version of Tom Strange, or Tom Strong, I mean. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Terrific himself ends up with Tom in Our Earth. He has to talk with Swamp Thing, and they end up following Swamp Thing's clue to find this Doctor Doom-like character. And then there's a big surprise at the end as who it is. Terrific's still really great. Check it out. Justice League Odyssey, it takes place right where Odyssey #1 ended. So all the heroes, they meet up with Darkseid, and obviously you're going to fight Darkseid. So they just start fighting, and Darkseid just like, listen, I'm right, you're wrong, and tells them all to fuck off, and disappears. So then he drops them off at Starfire's universe where she is being worshipped, and they get the first key as to what's going on, and they all kind of realize, like, hey, we are gods to these people, what's going on, why is this happening? Mm-hmm. And there's a great back and forth between Azrael and Cyborg, because Azrael's a dick. And Cyborg's just like, listen, guy, like, calm down. We have something important to deal with here. We can't deal with your pride, because he wants to go to his universe so he can be worshipped.
Yeah.
Justice League Odyssey is so good. The art is fantastic. They're killing it on that.
I forgot to grab that one this week. Yeah, I gotta read that.
Batman Beyond #25. I finally caught up on Batman Beyond, so I can talk about it. Once again, another great metal cover, all red. So a lot of this is backstory as to where Bruce Wayne was at the end of his career in this universe. And it shows Bruce Wayne in the Beyond outfit before he retires. And Dick Grayson shows up. He's the mayor of Bloodhaven at this point. And this is supposed to be the 100th anniversary of Tom Wayne's birth. So they're giving away this giant building to Gotham to try to build for the future. And of course, everything goes wrong. And we end up finding out that the Joker is still alive at the end. So it was a huge buildup of the relationship between Batman and Joker to get to that point. And what's great is he's in the kind of Killing Joke-esque Joker. And the reason he's like that is because when we find him, he's in Barbara Gordon's office. So that was really good. Like, Batman Beyond's been fantastic recently, so definitely be checking that one out. Rednecks #16. Are you still reading Rednecks?
Yeah, that was on my list. I'm just behind, I think, a few issues.
Okay, so we get a lot of the backstory of JV and, like, what happened to him and where he is moving forward. And then we get a big reveal that one of the brothers is gay in the book. And kind of the interaction between him and his father. And because his father walks in on him with another guy.
Oh, jeez.
They kind of have a conversation over a bottle of Jack Daniels about it. And it's really great how the conversation goes back and forth. And how they kind of misinterpret each other, but end up realizing that they both support each other. And then JV and Julie have a great moment at the end that I won't spoil, but there's a big time jump at the end of the book as well. And then I got What If Thor.
Snap.
What If Thor, #1. So this is What If Thor was raised by the Frost Giants. It was really good. It's, basically instead of Odin beating the Frost Giants and taking Loki, the Frost Giants beat Odin and take Thor. And we get kind of a similar upbringing with Thor being kind of war hungry, but instead of Thor being jealous of Loki, Loki's jealous of Thor. Loki ends up finding Freya and, kind of building a relationship with her and all this. It's a really good what if story. I've said it 1,000 times with these what if stories, but they've done a fantastic job with kind of rebuilding this brand. And they also kind of set it up for a sequel, although I don't know if they'll ever get it. And then I'll end on friend of the show, Miles Greb. After the Gold Rush #4, my issue finally showed up.
Oh, wow.
And really good. It's a lot of conversation between Scout and these other characters as to how this planet came to be, and discussions about rewilding and bringing back extinct species of flowers and all these other different things to help build this world into something else. We end up finding out that this is Earth that he's on. I can't remember if that was revealed before or not, but they talk a lot about.
I think so.
Yeah, they end up talking a lot about this old society, and there's a story in here that's an old tale that is passed down, but it's about these two people, one from Hong Kong and one from California, that end up falling in love and making the science possible and all that. And then there's a lot of hints to some knowing Miles, his political feelings, because there's some talk about, people being elected that know something about science and things like that.
Yeah.
But a really great episode or issue, and now I get to wait for issue 5 whenever that's going to happen.
I did read. I caught up on Asgardians of the Galaxy, which is really good too. I read those 2 issues.
That's such a good book.
Yeah, just for Thor Frog.
Yeah,
just that alone makes the whole series.
I'd love, as an old time Marvel fan, the idea that when the gods are resurrected, their bodies stay behind.
Yeah,
and then at the end of, I think it's issue 2, at the end of that, we get the first Thor that we ever saw in Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
It was fantastic. Yeah,
and then when they resurrect those kids as zombies.
Yeah,
it's pretty messed up too.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's killing it.
Yeah, it's a good. That's some good couple issues so far. So awesome. Well, I think that's the show today, man. Where can everybody find you, Chris?
They can find me at Fortress Chris on Twitter. Mike, where can they find you?
They can find me at Fortress Rick on Twitter. Wow, I almost said Fortress Rick because Fortress Chris and Fortress Rick, they go all with each other, but don't call me Rick ever. Fortress Ricker. But where can they find the show?
Well, they can find the show at FCN_official on Twitter, or you can always go to FortressComicNews.com, where everything we do is posted on that website for your viewing, reading, listening pleasure. Remember, if you're watching us on YouTube, comment down below, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, do all that fun stuff. Helps us out in all the old algorithms. And if you're listening to us on a podcast service, specifically iTunes, 5-star reviews are always appreciated. 5-star reviews, once again, the algorithm helps us get up there and reach more listeners. We're reaching more every week, and we love that you guys are a part of that. So thank you very much. And I think that is everything, Mike.
That's it.
We'll be seeing you all next week as the countdown.
I am here next weekend and the weekend after that. You're not getting rid of me so easily, everybody.
Oh, man.
All right. I'll see you.
Bye, everybody.